Electric bike sales here in the US were slow to start, but during the pandemic, they finally caught up like they have in a lot of other countries. It's to the point that John MacArthur, a transport researcher from Portland State University, called 2023 the, quote, year of the e-bike, end quote. Now, e-bike sales in the United States leaped by 269% between 2019 and 2022, with the market size expected to have grown further in 2023 to be worth $2.59 billion. And there are a lot of companies trying to capitalize on that boom. Checking Amazon as an example, you can find a ton of electric bikes that if you look closely are actually all the same bike, just with various names white labeled onto them. So how do you know the good e-bikes from the bad e-bikes? Well, after doing a ton of research and having tried a lot of them, I think I can confidently give you a list of the 4 best electric bikes of 2024 for every type of rider. Now, I actually did a full decoder episode, the explainer series here on my channel, about all the rules, regulations, and things to look for and avoid when buying an electric bike that I will link below if you're curious for a deep dive. But suffice it to say for this video, just know that most states here in the US have a 3-class system like what we have here in New York City. And the most common e-bikes are Class 1 and Class 2, with the major difference being that Class 1 is pedal assist only and Class 2 has pedal assist, but also a throttle that you can use without pedaling, which is a lot of fun, honestly. Both of these classes must have pedals on them. They must be limited to 20 miles per hour when using the electric motor. They do not require helmets here in New York City at least, and of course, those are recommended. You don't need a driver's license, and they can be ridden where bicycles are normally ridden. And these 2 classes are just the most popular e-bikes by far. The 3rd class here, called Class 3, simply bumps the speed limit to 25 miles per hour here in New York City, although it's different in other places, and it does require a helmet. Okay, let's get to the bikes. First up, we have the sequel to a bike that actually featured in a previous video. This is the Velotric Discover 2, which is easily the bike I'd say that works for the most scenarios while also being relatively affordable. Full disclosure, this is the only bike on the list that the manufacturer actually sent me the bike for this video. Velotric was actually founded by some of Lime's original hardware team, you know, the super popular e-scooter and e-bike company. And an important thing to note, they've gotten to the point where they have over 500 physical partner stores here in the US where you can actually bring the bike in for support. Now, the idea behind the Discover series was to create a super simple urban commuter e-bike that's also stylish. And on that note, I like the styling. It's very sleek. The battery is part of the frame, which helps give it a more traditional bike look, but it can easily be removed with a key and charged separately, which is convenient if you don't want to carry your bike inside to charge it. The e-bike is also just solid feeling, and because of its step-through design, the term for when the crossbar is low like this, it's very easy for anyone to get on and off of. It also is very much like a normal bike, making it easier to ride even for people who are maybe newer to e-bikes. It has puncture-resistant tires, a squishy foam seat, adjustable stem for the handlebars to make them more comfortable to you, adjustable hydraulic suspension in the front fork. We have an even brighter than last model 130 lux headlight, built-in brake lights with turn signals even, which is cool. Also, Apple Find My built in, and the bike is IPX6 rated, so you can hose it down even if you wanted to. The battery is actually IPX7 even, and UL 2271 and UL 2580 certified, which are stringent safety standards. For the E part of this e-bike, we have Velotric's proprietary drive system with an 1100 watt peak power and 75 newton meters of torque, up from 900 watts of peak and 65 newton meters from the previous model. The range is up to 75 miles now from the 705.6 watt-hour battery, slightly larger than the previous model with 10 more miles or so of range. And they've also upgraded the sensor from a cadence one to a more sophisticated torque sensor. See that aforementioned video for more info on the difference between those if you're curious. Also, Velotric even has videos of it towing up to 880 pounds behind it, which is nuts. And while there is an app that allows you to connect to the bike to change a bunch of settings, including changing the top speed from the electric assistance anywhere from 12 miles per hour to 28 miles per hour, and turn off the throttle if you have to comply with your local laws, whether you need class 1, 2, or 3 where you live, which is super convenient. But the app isn't needed otherwise to ride. You can just use the built-in display to see pertinent info as well as control the pedal assist settings and a bunch of other features as well. Like most e-bikes with pedals, the pedal assist gives you a boost as you pedal, and the amount you get per revolution of the crank is based on the level that you've selected. The Velotric has a lot of options for this assistance. There are 3 different modes, each with 5 different levels within them for a total of 15 different options, which just means you can adjust it to whatever you are most comfortable with. And you also do have a thumb throttle though, which I love because that means that you don't have to pedal. And this is the first electric bike that I've ever seen at least to have cruise control. So you can set it to a speed and it'll maintain it for you if maybe your thumb gets tired. Now, when you're running out of power, the battery can be charged fully in about 6 hours. And lastly, for this bike, a lot of people will like it as a proper popular Shimano 8-speed gear shift system that you can control using the up and down shifter on the handlebar. And so if you wanted, you can turn off the electric assist entirely and just ride it like a normal street bike. By the way, I'll leave links below to the best price that I could find on all of the bikes in this video. Next up is the bike I would recommend if you need to save space. This is the Radio Flyer Flyer Folding Cargo Bike. Now, Radio Flyer might sound familiar to some of you as it is the same Radio Flyer who became popular in the 1920s for their stamped steel red wagons called the Radio Flyer, named for two famous men of the day, Marconi, who demonstrated the first ever long-distance wireless telegraph, and Lindbergh, who completed the first solo non-stop flight across the Atlantic. Radio Flyer. The company has since created a ton of new wheeled tricycles, wagons, and even electric car miniatures, so it seems to make sense that they began expanding into electric bikes not too long ago. The bike does come with fenders and lights, has an integrated bell, and unfolds using two solid-feeling latches. Now, because it is a smaller cargo bike, it doesn't have that high of cargo payload, and because it has a smaller battery and motor, the range and torque aren't going to be as high. But it can still carry 80 pounds of cargo on the rear rack and has between 20 to 40 miles of range. Throttle only, which this has as well, which again is fun, versus lowest pedal assist settings. And all of that is using a 350 watt motor. But the bike is 53 pounds and again folds down much smaller for storage or to put it in the back of a car or even on a train. Now, the battery is a Samsung 48 volt 9.8 amp hour UL 2271 certified battery and is removable. So again, you can leave the bike in storage or the trunk of your car and bring the battery in to separately charge that, as well as of course buy additional batteries should you need the extra range, and it can be fully recharged in about 7 hours. Radio Flyer also has a number of accessories that you can add to the bike to customize it, including a dual child seat, a kid carrier with backrest and handlebars, various different rear storage baskets, front rack, frame bags, and even a trailer. It's a great bike if you need to carry cargo, but also need to be able to store the bike or transport it with you sometimes, and the price is very reasonable as well. Again, though, I'll leave the best price that I can find on the bike in the description below. Okay, so what if deep down you don't want an e-bike, you want an e-motorcycle, but one that still falls within the laws of electric bikes? Well, this is the Super 73R Brooklyn. Super 73 gained popularity with their initial e-bike, the S1, and has now since launched a whole lineup of bikes. The various models in the R series are at the top end of the price range, the various ones in the Z series at the lower, and the S series bikes are in the middle. They even have a kid model now. Styling-wise, Super 73 was kind of the first to get recognized, as far as I can tell, for this sort of cafe racer-esque vibe, which I have to admit, I am a complete sucker for. We have extra fat tires for a bit more cushion when riding, and front fork suspension, as well as rear suspension on this R Brooklyn model at least, as well to help with that even more. We also have built-in head and tail lights, again with braking indication, and a flat, non-adjustable seat that's 31 inches from the ground, meaning it'll work for anyone 5'1" to 6'8". On the handlebars, we have very little really. We have our thumb-style throttle on the right, and a small display and controller on the left. You can push the up and down arrows to cycle between 0 pedal assist all the way up to level 4 pedal assist. And you can tap the button on the right to cycle through, displaying your speed, range remaining, total mileage for the bike, and current pedal assist level. The bike also has an app to update it and adjust the ride modes, including a higher level meant for private property only that allows for a higher top speed than 20 miles per hour. And also there's a basic navigation app in there that's sole benefit is that the display on the handlebar does the navigation direction. Now, personally, as with all of these bikes, I'd buy a third-party phone mount and just use Google Maps on your phone. We have the gas tank looking 960 watt-hour battery that can be removed with a key to be charged separately, which again is a handy feature. And Super 73 claims 75 plus miles with Eco Pedal Assist, but obviously a lot less if using the throttle. More likely closer to 30 or so when only using the throttle. And well, you will be using the throttle a lot because you can't help but get that feeling that the only reason that this bike has pedals at all is to comply with the law. There's no shifting, for example, and if we're honest, the pedals make it so my knee is above my hip. And I'm not even that tall, I'm just 5'10", which any cyclist will tell you is a recipe for hurting your knees. I can attest to this myself with a bad right knee from doing exactly that on bikes for years before I knew better. So basically, these pedals, they're there for you to put your feet on while using the throttle or pedal in a very desperate situation when you run out of juice. And even that's not easy. Again, there's no gears. But even then, the styling and the cruising around town on it just more than make up for that. Okay, so now this next bike is a bike that I rode a while ago, and it got the most odd looks of any bike I've ever ridden. It also ended up being one of my favorite cargo bikes. This is the Urban Arrow family, and this bike's design is usually called a long john, box bike, or a front loader, and you can probably get why. And as the name would suggest, its main focus is on carrying the kids. In the front loader, we have 2 seat belts and a ton of space. The max payload, including the rider, is about 550 pounds, so kids or packages are no problem. And we have a choice of configurations with different motors, from a 50 Newton meter or so rated Bosch motor to a 65 Newton meter step up, and an 85 Newton meter option for carrying a lot of cargo. The battery is rated for an average range of 50 kilometers or 31 miles, and is thankfully removable for you to charge it away from the bike, which is sort of necessary for the size of this bike, really. And I will say at first, the sheer size, it's about 9 feet long and a bit over 2 feet wide, and the way that the front wheel moves out of your eyesight because of the front loader kind of felt alien, but after a day of riding or so, I got used to it pretty quickly. Something that helps with the ease of use once you get used to it is the internally geared hub that very smoothly changes through the gears as you ride by you twisting the throttle on the handlebar. It's also a CVT or continuously variable transmission, so it's remarkably quiet, infinitely adjustable, and should be very reliable. We have an optional GPS module that you can add to track the bike, a box cover or luggage net in case you want to use it for actual cargo, an extra bench if you have more than 2 kids, rain and sun covers if you don't want said kids or cargo to get sunburnt or wet, and more. If you just need to carry multiple kids or even just a ton of cargo, this is a very solid bike for that. There are only 2 downsides. The price, which is not cheap, although less than other bikes like this if I'm honest, and the sheer size. It's basically a small boat. So you will need to make sure that you can fit it somewhere to store it. Again, I'll leave the best price I can find on this bike below. And there you go, the 4 best electric bikes for every type of rider. I will leave links to the best deals I can find on each bike in the description below. That's it. Calling it a night. So, night. Motorcycle. If it was electric, it would make that sound. And the world would be a better place. Shimano? Shimano. Shimano. Truck is backing up. Everybody needs to know in the neighborhood that a truck is going backwards. Yelling child, yelling person. It's a child screaming. And a helicopter. Or plane.